Hi and welcome to A Drummer's Guide to, the podcast all about the things that it takes to be a professional musician aside from playing your instrument. My name is Emily Dolan Davis. I've been playing drums since 1999, professionally since 2008, and helping others to do the same since 2018. And that's why we're here today. So, hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are. Today I wanted to just share a few stories basically about probably a really horrible part of this job, and that is rejection. And it's such a huge part of, I think, well, life generally, quite honestly, but I thought maybe it would be useful for me to share some of the rejections that I've had over my career to kind of just illustrate that nobody is immune, and also how I used rejection and didn't use rejection, and I'll explain when I get there, but what I think I created meaning from a lot of the rejection that I got when I chose to, and I actually feel like rejection is a really useful tool in some respects. It's terrifying, don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm like, oh, I love rejection. No, I don't. Nobody does. Like, it's a human response to not like rejection. So if that's something that you're scared of, if that's something that you're going through, like, just know that it is a part of life generally, but certainly a part of a creative career, because nothing is absolute. And for me, just over the years, I have found that when it comes to rejection, I've put it down to four things, essentially. The first thing, probably the most obvious thing, is skill level. Like, my skill level just was not up to scratch. Therefore, it's something that I need to reflect upon. It's something that I need to work on if I want to continue, if I want to get better, if it's in the area that I want to be, and all that sort of stuff. The second thing, sort of related, I suppose, is just I wasn't prepared enough. Simple as. That's a hard pill to swallow for me, because I'm a perfectionist, or I have perfectionist tendencies. I'm working on it. I'm trying to shift those tendencies. I was going to say I'm trying to be imperfect, but trust me when I tell you, I am so imperfect. I have so many flaws. I'm learning more and more about the flaws that I have every day, and embracing those. And actually, weird thing happens when you stop trying to be perfect, is that, for me at least, I found I'm nice to myself, which is quite nice. I would recommend it, 5 stars. But also I feel more whole, because I feel like when you're trying to be perfect all the time, it's a very, to me, okay, so I have this thing where when it comes to certain sounds or feelings or thoughts, they come with a lot of texture, which probably sounds bizarre, but what I mean is things like being perfect feels like a very thin, very brittle piece of material that, you know, being imperfect, it will shatter it. Like, it's very fragile. And whereas once I've started embracing my flaws, recognizing them, and just going, okay, that is just part of who I am. I'm imperfect. That is not an attractive quality about me, but it exists. Where I thought that I would have this same brittle feeling, actually it's made me feel more round and warm and whole and human, which probably sounds quite out there, but yeah, that's what sort of embracing my imperfections has done for me. And part of that is admitting that, okay, I was just unprepared. I could have prepared more and I did not. And this is where we are. Again, that one is the hardest one for me as someone who strives to be perfect, especially professionally. I really do try and do all the things, which I'm sure that you have clocked when you've been listening to my episodes. If you hear me talk about any stories or whatever, I run on anxiety and the fear of getting things wrong and not being prepared and not being good enough and blah, 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 blah. So I over prepare. So to rock up to an audition, say, and being unprepared, or a rehearsal or whatever, that is like biggest fear unlocked. But anyway, I will go into detail with these with stories in a moment. But so that's the second one. The third one is confidence. I feel like rejection for me has come from a lack of confidence in myself or coming into the situation. This is something that really I've only recognized in the past few years how bigger an issue that has been, and how I perceived it at the time as my, oh, I'm just being humble. I don't want to be arrogant. Huge fear of mine to be seen to be arrogant. And therefore I come in with this kind of on the back foot kind of energy. It's very defensive, not in a defensive like as in an argument, but more submissive. That's probably a better word. But unfortunately that can come across as, oh, she's not confident in what she does. You want someone to come in that knows that they can do the job and all that sort of stuff. So confidence, I feel, is a big part of why I've been rejected in the past. And then finally, the fourth one is just quite simply fit, the fit of the people that are in the room. I haven't even got a look in on certain gigs because the fit is wrong. And that is to do with whoever is auditioning or whatever, because some people have a thing where, for instance, there have been multiple gigs that I've been told about that my name was put on the table and instantly rejected because I was a woman. And, that's fine. That's their deal. It's their gig. They can choose whatever they want. But equally, I may have gotten in the room and it might have just been an energy difference, or even on the gig, and then it becomes apparent, oh no, this is not a good fit. So anyway, I thought that I would go through a few of what I would see as some of my biggest rejections, but also ones that have just kind of stuck with me. Not necessarily big, but I thought about this episode and they came to mind, and I thought, well, that's probably useful. Like, there's a reason for that. That doesn't happen by chance, So anyway, the first rejection that I've had was, it was an audition when I was, I want to say 16. I've spoken about this briefly on other episodes, but not that much, I don't think. And this was an audition for a band called The Faders. It was an all-female band. I think, I was still in school. I think I might have just done my GCSEs, so might have been in, AS level, so that's in the UK, so year 12. I don't know what it is now. Who knows what the system is now. But anyway, went to this audition, all women auditioning, one of which was my best friend Charisse. Now, if you don't know, me and Charisse, Afuso, we grew up together. We've known each other since we were 11. We started playing drums on the same day, and we were both going for this drumming job. So basically had to learn a couple of songs. It was My Sharona and I Want to Be Sedated, and went to the depot in Caledonian Road that I don't think exists anymore. I'm pretty certain it doesn't. Met a whole bunch of other female musicians actually that I still to this day know. In fact, just thinking about it, like we were in the queue just making friends, me and Charisse. But anyway, we went for this audition and Charisse got it. I didn't. And at the time, I didn't understand why. I was like, but we're a similar standard, like, okay, granted, we do look different. If you don't know, Charisse is mixed race. I'm very white. And so I was like, oh, well, maybe it's a look thing, maybe. It wasn't, I don't think. In retrospect, and again, I recognise this a lot longer ago, but, the older I get, the more that I realise that this is what it is. Charisse was always and is always fantastic at coming into a situation with confidence and with, just an intention, I think is the right word. Like, she comes into a room and she, it's head held high, it's chest out, it's like confident. And same when she's playing, she's always been like that. She's been very, and I don't know whether this is conscious or not, and in fact we've never really spoken about it, thinking about it. I'm seeing her today, so maybe I should chat to her about it. I can't believe we've never had this conversation, but a conscious effort to kind of perform. In fact, I know that it has been. Yes, of course it has been. So anyway, So she came in with this confidence, not only walking into the room, but also when she sat down on the kit, when she played. Whilst our abilities were similar, her ability to convey confidence, a performance, and, you know, it's not just about having the ability, it's about people feeling that you have the ability, if that makes sense. Because I don't know whether you've had this, right? And I find that, in fact, no, this is the same with all instruments, where, and I had this the other day actually, I was coming up from a tube station and I heard this guitarist, right, street performer, and they were wailing it. And often I'm like, oh, that's nice, whatever. But this person, I was like, wow, they're actually really good, like really good, really interesting. I like the tone, I like what they were playing. It wasn't even to a backing track or anything. They were literally just playing. And I was like, wow. But as I came up the escalator, I looked at this person and they looked like the most bored, the most unconfident, insular person. And I was like, oh, that's a shame. Anyway, but if you go into an audition with that, it's like, it doesn't matter how good you are. If you can't project the confidence in what you're playing, if that doesn't fit, what you're playing doesn't fit how you look in your confidence in yourself, that is going to be a mismatch. And I believe that that is the reason that I did not get that audition. Charisse definitely did, and that was kind of the springboard into her career. It led to her then she was with the Faders for, I want to say 2 years. They released an album, you know, they went and supported Kelly Clarkson. What else did they do? They did a whole bunch of stuff. Oh, they were on Veronica Mars, if you remember that TV show. Like, that was the Faders. It opened up her world to a whole like thing of contacts as well, a whole connection, a whole network. I think that's what I'm trying to say. One that I benefited from as well, because she would put me forward for gigs, so, you know, all good. And it ultimately led her to working with Mika for, I don't know, 7-8 years, something like that. And they did world tours, you know, arena shows. Like, that was when he first came out. He was huge, and she was part of that right from the ground up. Like, first gig in, where was it, the Borderline in near Tottenham Court Road, Holborn kind of way. Like, that was his first ever gig, and, you know, she was there and I was there to witness it, and to see that rise was amazing. But it all came from that one audition. And I do believe that it was not just her ability, obviously, we all know that that is a given. It was her confidence that really made her stand out from the crowd. And for that, I say kudos to her. And at the time, I did not understand it. I was perplexed for a very long time as to why that went the way it did. In retrospect, it seems fairly obvious. So for me, that is why that confidence is a big part of why rejection can happen. It's confidence in yourself. I think it is probably, for me, it's my, or has been my biggest blind spot when it comes to auditioning, or just generally gigs. And everything else I can kind of understand, but that is one that has eluded me over the years. So I'm going to go in chronological order. I think it's chronological, I'm trying, but so in terms of rejection, so the next one that I wanted to talk about, which again I've spoken about multiple times, I've done a whole episode on this. This was the recording session that I did when I was 17. It was my first professional, proper, outside of my network recording session. I was called called by a producer who was a friend of a friend. Their drummer had broken their wrist or something like that, and I was called in to do the session. And ultimately, I got there, I set up, I started recording. I was not good enough. My skills were not there. They were not up to scratch. The poor producer had to ask me to leave the session. I could not actually finish the job. Biggest heartbreak I've ever had, easily, and, you know, very tough. It was physically painful. It hurt my soul. It hurt my idea of who I was, who I wanted to be, what I was striving for. And although I could put this in the unprepared section, but it was not that I was unprepared. It was that I was not skilled enough. My skills they just weren't up to scratch, basically. And at the time, you know, to deal with this rejection, I blamed outside sources. I was like, my drums weren't, you know, at a high enough standard. They weren't professional enough for this session. That's why I got asked to leave. Blah, 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 blah. No. It took me a few days to kind of just accept the fact that it was me, and it was my skill level, and it was not just one thing, it was multiple things. It was playing to a click, it was the touch on the drums, it was how I was locking in with the other musicians, it was, you know, it was just my playing ability all round. It just, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong in that moment, and it was awful. When I tell you the level of rejection, it couldn't have been worse. It really couldn't have been worse. It's so strange, sort of, when you look back on these memories, and it almost feels like a different person. It just, you know, it's so strange to me. But from that rejection, that's when I was able to, once I sort of got over myself and my, you know, I will say I was 17, I was a teenager. But yeah, once I kind of was brave enough, because it does take bravery, I think, to face yourself and face your shortcomings. I did what I always do, which was I got extreme, and I was like, right, this is never going to happen again. I'm going to face all of these things, and it became my goal, my mission. Yeah, goal is not right. It was my mission to address these things that went wrong, and I did that by obviously working with the click more, which I was doing. I just didn't recognize the level that I needed to be at, you know. And then I was playing to records to make sure that I was slotting in and locking in with the other players on the records. I was recording myself and listening back, which was the most horrendous situation ever, and so jarring when I first did it. And I was like, oh, I understand now why this has happened. And then getting out and playing live with loads of people just to get that experience, basically. And it wasn't until I was 21, which was I believe that was my next, oh no, do you know what? Maybe there was one recording session before that. Yeah, there was. It was with a guitarist that I was playing with, called Vinnie Mitchell, who I used to call Vinnie Hendrix. And he got me in to do a recording session, which went really well. So I would have been about 20, maybe? Yeah, must have been 19, 20. And that was when I also re-met Bennett Stein, who's the bass player for The Voice Kids. He's and The Voice. He's currently out with Snow Patrol. Played with Duffy for years. Fantastic bass player, like fantastic. One of my favourites. Another North London boy. And that was the first day we met in a professional capacity, both of us. And this recording session was crazy. The engineer ended up getting his finger cut off in the door, ended up having to go to hospital. There was blood everywhere. We had to clear all this up. But in the midst of this, we also recorded a song. And I would love to tell you what this band were called. It was a female band, and I can't remember. But anyway, it went well, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this has been working. But of course, this was like 3 years of working towards something that in myself, I didn't know what the result would be, because I thought I knew what the result would be when I was 17. So it was very scary. But then the next session I did after that was an album with the hours. That went really well, and gradually, like, my confidence grew, and just that became part of my part of the work that I was doing towards rectifying that one moment, that one day, that one heartbreaking moment. So to me, that was feedback. That rejection was feedback in terms of skills and lack of skills, or the level of skills that I needed to have. And then another one, so this is the other thing. After that after that session, that wasn't a session, I had a choice at that moment. And I didn't realise the extent to the importance of that choice, because I remember distinctly being like, oh, that's it for me, I'm just going to give up, blah, 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 blah. I remember feeling like that, but I chose to go the other route with it. Thank goodness. So another time that I got rejected due to skills was Goldfrapp. I had an audition for Goldfrapp, went to the guy's place, auditioned, played. We had a great time. It felt great. It sounded great. We got on really well. Like, everything was saying yes. And then at the very end, as I was packing up, they went, oh, by the way, just to check, obviously, you can sing, right? And I was like, no. And they're like, oh, you don't do backing vocals? It's like, no. I said, I mean, I can sing along and mime if that's useful, but I can't. No, that's not something that I can do. And they were like, oh, we really needed someone that could sing, and that was the reason that I didn't get that gig. They literally told me that on the spot. They were like, we can't actually, yeah, that can't work. And I was like, oh, okay. And in that moment, I was like, right, I have a choice to go and learn to sing and do backing vocals or not. And I chose to not. And since then, I've done a bit of backing vocals work. It's not great, but it's just not something that I chose to do. And again, I think that's the thing with these situations with rejection. There is an element of choice. Like, just because you get some feedback about something, it doesn't mean that you have to do something about it. You can choose not to. You can, I mean, I think it's fair to say you need to recognize that your options will be limited by that choice if you choose against it. But equally, just because it exists as an option, it doesn't mean that you have to take it, if that makes sense. So I chose to not take that option, and I've never really had any singing lessons yet. I've gotten in situations that have been less than ideal, but it hasn't, that is the only time that it's directly affected my career as far as I know. It was a shame. I would have loved to have done that gig, obviously, but it wasn't. I don't know. I just chose not to, quite simply. Is what it is. Another audition that I had that I was severely rejected from was for this artist called Willie Moon, who I don't know if they're still around. They were for a little bit. I think they had one hit like back in, do you know what? I don't even know. Let me work this out. It would have been 2010, I believe. Yeah, I think it was 2010. And basically this was a situation where I was just unprepared. At the time, I remember not having access to a kit, so it's very much just learning by ear, listening, doing charts, imagining myself playing it. Unfortunately, there was some bad timing in that my housemate the night before needed to go to A&E, so I ended up most of the night in A&E with them, which is fine. These things happen. The point is I should have been prepared enough that wouldn't have affected it. But unfortunately, I came in and when your body is not working, I was highly embarrassed. It was embarrassing because it wasn't rocket science. I should have been able to do it. There were a few edges, as my friend would say. There were a few edges to that song. And unfortunately, I just didn't do a very good job. Also, unfortunately, the guy running the audition was one of London's, biggest fixers. It was my first time meeting them. It was the worst first impression ever. I've never heard from them since, and that's fine. It hasn't, like I say, maybe it has affected my career massively, but ignorance is bliss. And I came out of that audition, and instantly I was like, yeah, like that. It's just down to me. That's my fault. I just wasn't prepared enough. It's not even that I should have done more work towards it. I'm not convinced I had the time. But it is what it is. I accept it. I accept that was 100% my problem. I was unprepared. And I don't think I've ever entered an audition as unprepared as that since then. And in fairness, I don't remember actually ever entering an audition as unprepared as that before that. But anyway, so that was Willie Moon. And then there's things like fit. So fit is an interesting one because, as I say, it can be something really blatant like, oh, you are a female and we are all men and we would like another man. Fine, that's up to them, whatever. But interestingly, you can actually get a gig and then only realise that the fit is wrong once you're there. And I definitely had this. So I went into this audition. It was great. It's for an artist called Rosie Lowe. She's still doing stuff. Fantastic singer, fantastic songwriter, really interesting music. Check her out if you have not heard of her. London based. And did the audition. Really great audition. Really enjoyed it. She was fantastic. We got on really well. And she liked the way that I played, the way I performed, all of that. She's like, you're in. Great. And as it transpired, just as time went on, it became apparent that the type of musician that she probably was after was not me. So if you know anything about me and my playing, I was brought up very much on rock and on blues and all of that. I am a pop drummer. That is what I am. But the other musicians in the band were slightly more into sort of the jazz kind of scene in London, jazz fusion, that sort of thing. A little more chopsy in their playing, and certainly preferred drummers with that style of playing. And I think that as time went on, it became apparent that that's what Rosie was after as well. So this ended up just being a mismatch. Like it came to a point where it was like, you know what, probably not working. And yeah, that rejection was hard, but at the same time it was a slight relief, because I was like, yeah, I mean, we can all see that this isn't working musically. Like, I was playing the songs and I loved it. I love playing the songs, and you know, her songs are there's great grooves in there. Like, I just loved it. I loved sitting in the pocket there. But what she wanted was someone that would add a bit of flair here and there, and it's just not my style. It's just not, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. But that's what she wanted, and at the end of the day, she's the artist. So if I couldn't give that to her, then she needed to find someone else that could, and she did, and that was a much better fit. So, you know, these things definitely happen for a reason. I believe that, and people are drawn to the right people. You just gotta take some time. And then obviously another big one with that was the darkness as well. Another just mismatch. You know, I'm a session player. I love playing with loads of different people. They wanted someone that would just be with them, because their band is everything to them. Like, they are only with their band. And I get it. Like, you have to have all members be in. Nothing else matters. And I couldn't do that. It's not me. It's not my personality. It makes me feel trapped and claustrophobic. Creatively, I struggle with that. And also, you know, being part of that band was so much more than just the playing. It was about, you know, going and doing interviews, but maybe having to put on certain personas for interviews. And again, I just wasn't about it. I'm very, as you can probably tell, as we're nearing the 200 episode mark, I'm very purposeful about how I want to hopefully help and or motivate and or inspire musicians, specifically younger musicians, because that's what I wanted when I was younger. And that was not a priority for them. And that's fine, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's a huge priority of mine, to the point that it is a deal breaker for me. And that was part of the reason that we just parted ways. It was just a mismatch in intent and direction, and like I say, aside from anything, I'm such a commitophobe when it comes to bands. I'm like, I can't play with just one, no, like, it's a nightmare. So yeah, that was kind of, I would say, my choice. It was our choice. It was certainly a mutual decision with the darkness. And yeah, luckily, I suppose in some ways we were on the same page. Like, we both kind of, as in both parties, kind of agreed, like, yeah, let's move on. So anyway, those are some of the kind of experiences that I've had in terms of rejection. I think the kind of main thing that I wanted to convey at this on this episode was that rejection happens to everyone. Absolutely. Like, you will not go through life without rejection at some point or another, whether it's professionally, personally, or anything else. But the other thing is that I think that it's worth just noticing or noting that it brings with it options of making a choice of how you move forward from those moments of rejection. And those moments of rejection can either be, you know, how can I put this? I suppose you can either project them outwards or inwards. Outwards is, you know, you can blame outside influences and all that sort of stuff, which is fine if that works for you. But for me, it's not very empowering, and I'm about empowering. And whilst I think I go too far the other way, in that I take all the responsibility for it, I have done in the past, I think that there does need to be a balance of, there are multiple things at play here. What can I control, but also what can I choose? Like, what do I choose to control? What do I choose to do to move forward with this, rather than like just because they rejected me because of this thing, it means that I have to address it. You don't. You just, there's a choice here now. You have information, it's data. Just look at it like that. This is just information. Now it's my choice what to do with it. And again, some things are going to be out of your control. You might not get an audition because of an external reason that you might not even know about. But even if you do know about it, it doesn't mean that you have to act upon it. It's just like, okay, we'll have to just agree to disagree sort of thing. It's opinions. There's a lot of opinion involved in this. And I think that just recognizing that makes the rejection a little easier to handle, but also, I don't know, I guess, and now don't get me wrong, I still find rejection terrifying, but I also find it quite compelling and quite interesting. Like, I think if you can get curious after points of rejection, then that's probably a fairly healthy way to approach it, I think. But also do appreciate that there will be outside influences that are completely out of your control, and that's fine too. And everyone has a preference, and that's fine as well. So yeah, I'm not sure if any of this has helped you or made sense. There's a very small fly on me, and I don't know why. But yes, I hope that these kind of just telling these stories has helped you. And if you are going through a period where you've just been rejected, or you're scared of being rejected, if you're scared that like there's an action that you're not taking because you're scared of that rejection, can I just say, like, go for it, because it will be scary. It possibly could be horrendous. The worst can happen. But as someone who has literally lived through the worst thing that could have happened happening, and without me even like thinking about it beforehand, so I was so blindsided that recording session when I was 17. As someone who has not only lived through that, but also acted from it and learned the most I've ever learned about myself and my career from it, it's the best thing that has ever happened to me in my career. Like 100%, there is no question about it. Like, so I implore you, like, please do put yourselves in those situations. You might even surprise yourself. You might even end up being like just totally on it and rising to the occasion, because no matter what, whether rejection is involved or not, your skill level will level up. I guarantee you that. You've got to put yourselves in awkward positions. It just is part of growth. It is. And it's uncomfortable. But let me tell you, and I've said this before, the rush that you get when you do something that you thought that you were just on the edge of being able to do, of your capacity, that rush is, there's nothing like it. I would highly recommend it. 5 out of 5 stars. So anyway, I shall leave you on that note. If you have enjoyed this episode, please do feel free to like, share and subscribe. If you would like to offer up a subject for me to cover on a future episode, go to emilydrums.com/AMA. And if you would like to reach out for some personal one-on-one coaching, you can book in for a free discovery call, which is just 30 minutes where we chat about where you are, where you want to be, and how I can help you essentially. And I'll let you know any ideas that I have as they come to me in the moment. So if you want to do that, you can go to either emilydrums.com and you can sign up there for a free discovery call, or if you head over to my Instagram at HeyEmilyDrums and send me a DM with the word discovery, I will get that set up for you. There's an automated message thing that should hopefully happen that then will give you the link to book in. So yes, anyway, I hope you're well wherever you are, whatever you're up to. I hope you're having a great day, and I shall see you next time for another subject. All right, speak soon. Bye.